Hey there, welcome to NASCAR Inside the Playoffs. I'm Shannon Spake. We're about to kick off week 6 with an elimination race at the Roval, and we have so much to talk about. Hi, Carl.
Hey, yes, we do have some stuff to talk about. One moment upended the entire playoffs.
Upended? You mean this one?
Yes, upended.
Oh, Cindric gets turned. Here we go.
Cindric's gone, so too is Logano. The whole field. My goodness.
Basically, the entire field comes to grief, crashing, spinning, and spiraling down to the bottom of the end of the back straightaway. It's easier to tell who made it through versus who didn't.
I don't know what was more painful, watching that wreck or our acting skills right there.
Yeah.
That, of course, was the big one at Talladega. This one's going to be a big one here on NASCAR Inside the Playoffs. I'm Shannon Spake, Daytona 500 winner Steve Letarte, NASCAR insider Mamba Smith, and the Hall of Famer Carl Edwards, who I'm sure you were very happy to be watching that from the couch rather than in the middle of it.
Definitely. Better to watch on television. I'll tell you one thing that's interesting. I haven't told you guys this yet, but to watch the race after being a part of this show and understanding what was going on there, that was the most interesting Talladega that I've watched in a long time. All the strategy, all the things happening, all the drama with the chase. Yeah, it was cool. You guys helped me.
It had everything, good, bad, and indifferent. It had great racing, big wrecks, a great winner, and playoff implications.
Yeah, I mean, what else would you want from a Talladega race? And the racing was amazing. There were 4 wide, 8 wide, it felt like, all over the place. But the thing I loved about it is everyone settled in. It didn't get crazy till the end. There was a couple things throughout the race. A couple cars fell out. But everyone had a shot at it by the end of the stage.
Did it make you miss it, watching those cars?
No. Watching Talladega is much different than being in the car at Talladega. A lot of pain there.
It's much safer right here with us right here because it was
That's
not
saying
safe.
Something.
That's true, because it was not safe on the track from start to finish. It was a wild day in Talladega.
Chaos, that's Talladega. We know there's going to be the big one.
Still trouble. They're wrecking. Ryan Blaney gets nose first into the outside wall.
It's a big one right on the line at the end of the second stage.
I don't think it was much of a push, more of just him driving through me. He just got wrecked.
Ross Chastain gets a big piece of the crash. Cindric gets turned. Here we go. They're all wrecking.
Oh, here we go.
Sliding and crashing down to the bottom of the racetrack.
It's a disaster.
Obviously incredibly frustrated. Great job to win the race. Brought some really fast race cars every single race of the playoffs, and I have to go bring another one next week and do my job.
It has major consequences to the playoffs.
Unofficially, I've got like 93 cars involved.
A beautiful afternoon turned ugly.
Unofficial, 93 cars involved. I'll tell you who was involved. It was the playoff drivers because they were all over the place out there at Talladega, top to bottom. Not a great day. We'll show you the standings in just a few minutes. But is this on par for what we expect from Talladega?
Well, so the big one was bigger than ever with 28 cars, but we all knew it was coming. When you have so few of incidents throughout the race, other than the Blaney wreck, everyone was still running. You could feel it up in the TV booth as the laps counted down, the pushes got bigger, there was less lifting, less giving, and a lot more shoving. And eventually it's like pushing 3 cue balls across the pool table. Finally, someone gets spit out of line.
And that's what Ross helped me understand last week, and you guys did. The positioning. You had to be up front to have a shot. It's not like you're going to go up there. So you're right. Guys up at the front pushing harder and harder and harder. I do have to clarify, though. I had lunch with Kenny Schrader yesterday, and he pointed out, and my dad, it was a wild lunch, and he pointed out that was not actually the biggest wreck in NASCAR history. And in 1960, there was a giant wreck. So we've been doing this for 65 years or something as a sport. And here's a clip. Schrader pointed out he was not actually driving at this time.
Anytime we can get a Schrader reference in a show in NASCAR, we got to get Kenny let's get him on the phone. How about that?
Yeah, 37 or like 4,000 cars in that wreck. And Schrader pointed out, he said the best part is, as they said afterwards, all drivers were accounted for. Like, what does that mean?
Like you found them?
Yeah, no, exactly. None were lost. So yes, chaos at these super speedways has been happening for a long time. Like you guys said, we knew it was going to happen. It's crazy to me that it happened at the absolute, tip of the spear.
Yeah.
That's where, to your point, where it gets so wild, right? Because you're trying to get to that tip. You're trying to be leading. And there's some guys that like to orchestrate from the front of the pack, and some guys like to be the second car and make that move. And if Austin Cindric was doing a good job leading that charge, and he was trying to get his runs. And in his interview, he was like, the run came differently this time than it had been the prior laps, and that's part of the reason why it didn't link up the right way.
Right.
It's such a different skill set. How, like, take me inside that race car, Carl. Like, can you feel what we're feeling when we're watching four wide? I mean, what is that like?
I was awful at these
I
super speedway
understand that,
races.
but you're
So
still
the fans that know, they're like, why would you ask Carl? Pick anybody else.
Which
Okay.
means you were in the middle
Okay.
of that pack if you weren't running up front.
Yes, and
So-
I mean, it was like you have this little thing on this shoulder going, go, 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 and the other one like, that's the craziest thing you could do, go, go, go. And so the leaders, though, the guys who run up front, and we talked about this, they are the only ones that have a chance to win. And I think that's what Austin was doing. He was up there, Gilliland got, mix it up. It looked to me like maybe he lifted to try to come back and meet up with the guy pushing him. Didn't work out. But yes, just totally anxiety producing to be up there racing like that, knowing that one of these wrecks is coming.
That's the thing. So every driver that was in that wreck knew that wreck
That's
could
right.
happen,
That's
and they
it.
still drove right into it. That's what
right.
makes drivers, that's why we should cheer for them or boo them if you don't like them, but that's what sets race car drivers apart is nothing we saw at Talladega was outside the expected. Now, we might have got everything we expected all in one race, but that big wreck, that is super speedway racing, yet the reason there were 28 cars in it is because everybody was still on the gas trying to race their way in.
Yes, and as a fan, when you're watching, that's one thing I'd like to be able to express is that in those cars, you said it perfectly, the guys all know what's going to happen. You still go do your job. It's like it's some sort of crazy dissonant thing in your mind.
See-ball, get ball, right? Like a receiver that goes up
Yes.
and knows he's going to hit the wall as he's going up for. I mean, but it's just you gotta get it. And you guys, all you see is that checkered flag. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm sure the focus for these guys as we watch back this wreck with 5 to go, you up inside that booth, Steve. Like there were times when I was watching this broadcast that I couldn't believe. Like I've seen Talladega a million times, but it just looked so incredibly crazy this time.
There were 10 wrecks that didn't happen and one that did.
Yeah.
There was at least 10 times that a car was far enough out of shape it could have easily been the accident. But simply enough, what happens is for the majority of the day, I am going to help Mamba. I'm going to push him. And then as we get closer to the finish, well, now Carl's going to push me and I'm going to push Mamba. And then with 5 to go, you're hitting his car, he's hitting my car, and I'm hitting his car, and you can't see what's happening to him. And that's really it. It's kind of like that game of telephone. How much different does the information happen as it translates? Well, same thing with the energy in the car. It's easy to plan it with 2 or 3 cars, but when the entire field is shoving, eventually it just gets to be too much.
28 cars involved, so a lot of wrecks. And over the last few weeks, the damaged vehicle policy has been a hot topic. We've seen championship contenders on the wrong side of the policy. And after Sunday's race, and specifically the big one that we just showed you, it's become a topic once again because it's a little confusing. So for more, let's say hello to our Insider's insider, Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic.
Yeah, the confusing is a good word because that's certainly what this was. NASCAR's DVP policy is such that if you're involved in an accident and you're unable to drive your car back to pit road, your race is over. This applied to 2 playoff drivers involved in this accident, Joey Logano and Austin Cindric. Their race was effectively over. 2 other playoff drivers, though, Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe. They had damage to their cars and they were not able to get back to pit road. However, NASCAR decided to tow them back to pit road where their team was able to put on new tires and make repairs. And in both Elliott and Briscoe's case, they were able to continue racing. It's a confusing situation. If you listen to Briscoe's audio, it'll kind of underline why this was so confusing.
The series director just told us that we would get a push back to our stall. Not let them take you out of that race car. They're saying that it won't move and I can't get a push. You tell them to push you. I have told them 100 times. Put your hand over the latch and do not let them drop that window net.
In both Briscoe and Elliott's case, because they were allowed to continue racing, they got additional points. And in NASCAR's playoff, where every point matters, and often the difference between elimination and advancing comes down to tiebreakers or even 1 point, this could be a big deal going forward. Another driver who benefited from a confusing situation was Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman was also involved in this accident. He was able to drive back to pit road, so under DVP policy, the team could make repairs and he's okay. However, as he's coming down pit road and the team starts making repairs, NASCAR decides to put out the red flag. Under NASCAR rules, teams cannot touch their cars under red flag. And you look at the video here, the team stops because the red flag is out. Then the yellow comes back out, team makes repairs. However, the yellow flag is out, the field is still parked on the backstretch. NASCAR determined that because there was still debris on the track, they were going to keep the cars parked. The field is not moving. This allowed Alex Bowman to make repairs and actually join the back of the field on the backstretch before the field got moving. Very unusual situation, but it allowed Alex Bowman to stay on the lead lap, and if you look at the running order, allowed him and put him in a position to gain extra spots in the running order and additional points. And in the playoffs, every point matters. This is something to keep in mind going into the Roval, where the DVP policy will certainly be another issue.
Well, that about sums it up, right? Thank you, Jordan, for clarifying that for us. We do want to take a look at this, right? This is the playoff standings before that big wreck. You see Austin Cindric was leading the race, so he was up front. Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Daniel Suarez on the back end of the final standings. Let's see what it looked like after the big wreck. So you got now William Byron, who jumps to the top. He's now advancing on points. I want to focus on the guys who I didn't think they were going to have a good day and ended up having a good day. That would be Ryan Blaney, who we saw how upset he was in the garage after that lap 122 incident with Alex Bowman and Denny Hamlin. Both those guys in pretty good points positions.
Well, and that's what it's all about, and that's why this officiating is so under focus, because this entire season for these drivers have been making the playoffs and advancing out of the playoffs. And your points is like the score in a regular game. That's how you're going to advance if you can't win. And that's why what happened during that accident is such an important conversation, because, as Jordan pointed out, there's really two things. The hauling of the cars back to pit road is a very confusing rule, and I feel like NASCAR decided to officiate it differently, which upset the garage area and the fans. And I think the fans have every right in the playoffs to look at officiating. But caution and red flag, that's as simple as it comes. That's just kind of a ball or strike call, something you're expected to make correctly. And what I think is most important isn't digging into the weeds of the rules or how it's officiated, but when you are watching sports, and it doesn't matter the sport, as a fan, in the postseason, as an analyst, when I'm analyzing what the teams are doing, we put these competitors in the absolute vice of pressure to perform. Well, that pressure needs to be felt industry-wide. I feel it in the television booth, and I think the fans feel it for the drivers. Well, the officials need to feel it. This is no different than referees in other games. This isn't something new. And, hey, congratulations, NASCAR. Your officiating is being questioned. That means you've got to the big time, because it's questioned in every other sport.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think it's brilliant. I think that analysis is spot on, because as a competitor who literally lost a championship on a tie. 1 point, right? We built this sport in a situation such that all the pressure is on, everything matters, officiating matters, and it comes down to one race, maybe one last restart to crown our champion.
I'm not going to sit here and say that this job is easy. Like, the job that they're doing in the tower, I don't want it. There's a reason why I'm sitting here with you guys instead of down at the R&D center trying to figure this thing out. But, and mistakes happen. But we got to learn from them and be better the next time and adjust quickly. Now, typically, NASCAR does adjust pretty quickly when the situation calls for it. So I feel like we're going to end up in that situation, talking to folks in the building. They're going to change. Something will be changed into next year.
For guys like Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin, who kind of lucked into the fact that they are now on a positive side of the points, is that good momentum? Like, you are big on momentum. So if you just happen to luck into it, I mean, you didn't really finish the race the way you wanted.
Well, first thing, Alex Bowman did some spectacular stuff in his previous life. This is unbelievable, okay? Unbelievable.
Good karma, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Second thing, I want to jump ahead, and for the fans that are watching this, that maybe this is the first time they've tuned in and they're thinking about NASCAR, you're getting ready, and we're going to get to this later. Next week, I think is going to be an exaggeration of all of this. You've got a change format, a Roval, you've got all these things under question, you've got every point matters, and so I don't know that you can talk about momentum right now, because I believe chaos is still the word. These Talladega, the Roval, what's happening right now, the cutoff, it's just my feeling. If I were a driver, I would be like, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
The chaos has to turn to momentum eventually, and it's only going to get tougher and tougher as we get to the round of 8 and, of course, head to the Roval this weekend. We got Ross Chastain heading back in here for a second week. He had a little fiery finish out there, Tal. You think watermelon juice could put that out? What do we think?
He needed something.
Just squeeze the watermelon? We'll be right back. Okay, so the official big one might have happened with 5 to go, but Ross Chastain might have something to say about that, because this hit at the end of stage 2 was huge. The damage, the fire, all of the above. Thankfully, everybody climbed from the car. Ross Chastain here in studio right now. I remember one time at the Infield Care Center, Mark Martin was asked, like, what part of your body absorbs that hit the most? And he was like, that's a silly question. I'm going to ask that question because when you hit like that, when you wake up the next day, like, what part of your body feels that the most?
So in the moment, it was everything. But for some reason, my hips and legs went forward in my seat. So we made some adjustments, and we're always adjusting. Ever since I got to CGR, to the 42 Cup car, I've had the same group, same crew chief, same mechanics working on my car. So we've constantly been evolving my seatbelt. So we're making minor tweaks this week going into the Roval because I don't want to move. The whole point of the cockpit and the seat and everything you see in there is to hold us in place, because we don't have airbags like passenger cars, but we have 9 seat belts, and I have 3 between my legs, and I went forward and caught the middle one, which is the reverse G, the sub belt that keeps me, if I'm upside down, from hitting the roof. That's the one you don't want to hit. So in the moment, it was there, and then waking up Monday morning was like my mid-back. So a lot of cold therapy, hot therapy, water, and a lot of stuff with Dan Jansen, our strength coach, to work through that easily this week.
When you can't, because the way you guys were running, like obviously you're coming to the line, you're almost to that relaxed point. Are you starting, you're like, all right, well, let's figure out what we need for the car. Like, did that hit kind of catch you off guard completely because you were so close to the line?
No, I thought when we took the white, or the invisible white, that I was 2 rows too far back to be comfortable. Turns out I was only 1 row. I needed to be where the 8 was. And when the 8 flared out, I was confident to go with him. It would give the 48 and 5 who were behind me room to fill the middle. On the backstretch, though, when we watch the onboard, they have slow motion cameras in there for NASCAR. I actually take my hands off, one hand at a time, off the wheel, and roll my wrists out. I put my thumb straight up, and I scratched my nose, which I don't really know why I did that. But visor up, scratched my nose, visor back down, and then we crashed. But thumbs were out coming through 3 and 4 to the line. Thinking it might
you kind of knew, you kind of backed.
I was in a bad spot.
Oh my goodness. All right, so that's what it looked like, the video that we just showed you. Let's hear what it sounded like from the radios of Ryan Blaney and Alex Bowman, who were also involved in that.
You all right, buddy? Just got the wind knocked out of me. I know. Sucks. Sorry. Yeah, that was on me. I didn't listen soon enough.
I mean, listen, he took the blame, but I mean, you can't place blame at Talladega. It's Talladega, right? I mean, yes, no?
I can place it.
Where'd it go, bro?
He's like looking at me like, are you crazy? You haven't been in that car, Shannon.
I think it comes back to the whole body of work. And in my experience, when things have led up to this and say the 48 car had spun or crashed other cars in prior weeks at other tracks, not drafting, then you have a reputation, and that was my reputation recently, that I didn't have any margin for error anytime I did anything. Everybody blamed me. I mean, I got blamed for the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs a couple years ago. So,
blame Ross.
It's one of those things. Alex has a pretty good track record, and he owned up to it and bumped him in a bad spot, and that was it.
And I think for Ryan at the Super Speedway specifically, he is typically up front. And he finds himself getting wrecked out of the front part of the pack often. And I think he's just really frustrated because when you take those hits like that over and over again, like he's getting mad that he's getting hit and put in those situations.
Go ahead. You wanted to talk about
hits,
right?
I think it's really important, right? As a former driver, as a guy who's not in the seat because I'm trying to balance the risk and reward, I worry about you guys. These hits are hard, right? You're out there, you're racing as hard as you can. The cars are stiff. How are you addressing that? It scares me to see you all hitting that hard.
Yeah, I really can only control what I can control, and that's inside the car. So head surround foam, I've had, I'd say, 3 different types of foam in my headrest that looks the same from the outside, but it's different grades of foam that BSCI and Trackhouse and everybody's in NASCAR is working towards what's better. So we're constantly buying new foam. My Bell helmets are custom machined in the top for my head, so there's no wiggle room. Like, they scan my head, and it's a one size fits only me in the whole world, nobody else. So all those little things are all I can do. It did crack my Hans this weekend, so that thing goes on the shelf. And I have a very specific Hans that I like. I don't like the newer ones, so the shape of it for my shoulders are very specific, and it's one of the few things I'm like a real stickler on.
Okay, so I know incidents like this, I mean, you mentioned, and switching gears now back to Alex Bowman kind of conversations, but rivalries do kind of start from somewhere, right? So how does this moment, and what you mentioned, like some of this stuff from before, how does this kind of set a base for some of that? Not necessarily saying this in general, but incidents like this.
Well, I think it's one brick in a, but there's a long way to go. Alex has a lot of runway before anybody would really think he's out just driving erratically. That's just not the kind of guy he is. You meet his dad, and that's just very, very quiet. And Alex is a little bit louder than Mr. Bowman, but that's a very low bar because that's just how he was raised. So I think if they go to the Roval and the 12 spins off the 48's bumper, now we have an issue. But he's got some room.
Right, and as a guy who maybe didn't keep it under control all the time, they can get way out of hand. And you know how this goes. We've all seen it. I've been a part of it, and I think that I don't see anything right now that looks like total chaos.
This is what you're talking about, Carl?
Yeah. I don't know if this was part of all of it.
Yeah.
I was along for the ride there, but then I went ahead later on. Had to finish the race. And I made some real conscious decisions. This was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my career, was to pull back in the garage, go back out and think, oh, I'm going to wreck them. When I looked in my mirror and saw this, it was one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. But I didn't learn my lesson. Because then I went ahead and did this. And it's just, you can't, as a driver, I can only speak for me, when this started to affect my performance, it's bad,
because you were thinking about that more than you were thinking about finishing.
You can't do that. And I let myself do that a couple times in my career, and it was no good. You've got to be able to separate. Some guys are really good at that. Some guys like myself, it took a while.
I think
that was Brad Keselowski with Carl back in the day. They had a notorious rivalry.
And I think talking about Bowman, if Bowman had gotten into that with, like, say, Bubba Wallace, because Bubba and him got into it at Chicago, and that really messed up his race, then that might lead to something else. But when it's with different guys, I think it takes longer to build those kind of animosities.
And that push might not have gone bad. Everything could have worked. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't just way out of line from the outside.
Carl, you said something interesting, like you were thinking about the rivalry more than anything. Like, you recently kind of experienced this whole thing. When you're inside those cars and you're around Denny Hamlin, because that was sort of one that we followed a lot, do you think about that? Like, I got to cross my T's and dot my I's, or however we describe it?
Well...
Does it change the way that you race in the car?
Like Carl, I haven't learned my lesson, and my rivalries started like early on at a young age, when like other drivers would come up to me and realize like, oh, they couldn't confront me after the race because I was 15 years old and they're 30, and so once I turned 18, I was like, oh boy, now they're not going to stop when they get to me. So I've had that along the way, but yeah, with like my stuff with Denny. At first it was intentional to move him here. That was an intentional move. I didn't know he was going to go up and crash. We were early in the Gen 7 car, and I think he overcorrected, but I hit him way too hard. And then Atlanta was just a moment where, right here, okay, well, where I just decided not to lift when I was tight. My car was already torn up. And then he took it back out on me here at Pocono and took this win from us. But I felt like that was fair. I felt like that I deserved that, and I learned from that. And we did. We got to a point where we raced really well. Joey Logano and I in 2021 had a off the camera. Each of us weren't running really fast that year. We were in like 13th place, racing each other terrible at like Kansas and Michigan, a few places, and we had a long talk on pit road. After that, we've been great. We're super aggressive. Haven't touched each other since.
Need it for the sport, though. That is great for the sport.
And you know the best way to get back at a rival?
What's that?
Beat him.
Beat him. That's right.
My dad told me that from the time I was 12 years old. You know what? I'd be like, I'm like 12 years old. I want to go fight. And he's like, no, we're just going to go beat him. Yeah.
So how, you know what? Let's remind everybody how you did beat Denny Hamlin at your own game.
Yes,
your own game.
I love this.
The Hail Melon, everybody.
One more shot for playoff drivers at Martinsville Speedway.
Gotta get him? Yeah, I gotta get him. These two.
Yeah, but the car against the wall, wide open. Chastain did a video game move.
Holy hell. I guess it does work. You made the transfer, man. Holy. Did you see that? Dude, he held it wide open all the way through the corner. I could not believe it.
The one Hail Mary in defense and got it.
I thought, why not? We live by why not.
Okay, I don't care who you are. Like, I saw that. Somebody's like, did you see what happened? I'm like, what are you talking about? I saw it, and I was simultaneously, like, blown away, number one. Second, so jealous that I didn't do that. And it was the cool. If you like sports, if you like people just going for it, that is it. I'm like, who is this dude? Who is Ross Chastain? And then the why not? it made my whole. I had a great week where I was thinking, why not? That's what Ross says. Why not? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, so the why not piece is actually starts out with a sad story of coming out of high school. Two of my best friends, Cody Moran and Shane Lester, were in a car crash. Cody got ejected, broke his neck. He'll never walk again, probably. So out of that, in the hospital, they came up with a merchandise brand, a lifestyle brand, if you will, and had like a sleeve of like 12 hats made, like 12 Richardson 112, like the trucker hats we all wore, and started selling them. And because Cody's life changed that night. Shane walked away from the car crash totally fine. Cody will never walk again. And so they lived, and we lived through high school, and ever since with the motto of like, hey, you want to go on the boat? Why not? Hey, you want to drink a beer? Why not? And so they've grown that brand, and I've watched from afar, and it's a lifestyle. It's a mentality that I have, and their hats and shirts on their brand really, let me wear it on my head, what I'm feeling inside.
Do you have one of these? I want one of these hats.
We'll get you some hats.
Dude, you just said it. I mean, we are all blessed with this amazing thing that is life in this world, and to say why not and go live it is beautiful, man.
So
Good
did
job.
you think in that car, as you were getting ready to make that move, was that what went through Ross Chastain's mind? Why not? Let's just do this?
So when I do think through things, whether it's slow
when the moment
quote
of the day.
But like when it's slow in business or something, but in those high-paced moments where it's right now, it was like 11 or 12 seconds from the moment I thought of it coming off turn 4 when we took the white to when I did it into turn 3. I kept saying, why not? And I didn't have a single reason, which actually scares me more. That's what's scary is I couldn't think of one. I mean, I thought about the gate off turn 4. It's safe. I thought about the catch fence. If I hit it, it's safe. I thought, line it up with the wall. Do not turn in and cut my angle. And the fifth gear pull was a total accident. That was just the racer and me knowing I was about to hit the chip, and I pulled 5th.
Is there a parental guidance warning for this? Because
kids, do not try this at home.
I was literally watching this race from the grandstands, and so Ross, you were what, like 10th or 11th, something like that.
And of course, as we mentioned, he beat Denny. That was a finished ahead of Denny Hamlin.
So everyone,
to make the championship.
The race finishes, and everyone's watching Christopher Bell win, and I'm the only one watching Ross, and I'm going crazy, and everyone's looking at me like, "What is this guy doing?" Because I saw the whole thing, and everyone was looking this way. I thought it was amazing, and you just edged him out, and that was even better.
You made a lot of new fans that day, and one fan in particular, she celebrated her birthday this week. I saw this on social media, and we had look at this little girl. She wanted a Ross Chastain themed birthday. Listen, awesome. I really hope there's someone in that car holding her because
I was thinking the same thing when I saw this. I was like, that's amazing. I'd fall. And yeah, we packaged up some stuff and sent it to her once we found it. So, yeah,
this is awesome. All right, why not go to commercial break right now? Did you like that? That's good. That's the professional in me. We'll be right back with the Why Not Man.
Hey, protect those melons, Ross.
We're covered.
I'll be right back. So the theme of the 2024 playoffs, definitely spoiler. We've had 3 of the 5 races have been won by drivers outside the playoffs. And, of course, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the most recent guy to do it this past weekend in Talladega. Feel a little sweeter? I mean, we talked about this last week with you.
Yeah,
but is it like a, I got it done?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me. I was pumped at Kansas, but happy for Mike Kelly and those guys in the 47. They continue to show up, and just like us and the 17, you don't try any less. You can't do anything less because you're not in the playoffs, and they showed up and got the right push from the 24.
It's weird because I feel like for a long time we would always say the cream rises to the top. What's happening here?
I think there's more cream, to be quite honest. I think, listen, here's the truth for me is that it's almost impossible to predict who's going to make the playoffs because there aren't 16 or 17 cars that could. There are 25 or 26 cars that are good enough to make the playoffs. So I think just because a team doesn't figure it out in the first 26, it doesn't instantly shut them off in the playoffs. They keep fighting, and I think they are more comfortable fighting with the playoff cars. Everybody...
That's right.
From the TV booth, it looks like everybody is more proud or more confident to take their space on the racetrack.
We're driving the same cars. They come from the same building, a Technique, right across the road from us here today in this studio, and we all have the same parts and pieces.
Because was there ever like an unwritten rule in the playoffs where you let those guys go and race and and don't be the guy
You
to
better
disrupt.
say yes, because I watched Tony Stewart storm back through the field when he raced for the championship.
That is true.
And
That
people
is
were
true.
waving him
Yes,
by
that
on that
is
race.
true.
They
That
didn't
is
want to be
true.
a part of it.
Yeah, and I remember my last race at Homestead, 2016, and I actually texted Kevin Harvick afterwards, because when I got to him, it was like he could have raced me hard and he let me go, right? And so, guys, I think as it gets closer, I think guys help each other, help the guys that have a little bit more to lose, or more to gain.
Do you agree?
In 2022, we qualified 27th at Phoenix. The week after the Hail Melon, we have all this momentum. We go qualify, and me and Daniel, my teammate, we qualified like 27th and 31st or something. And I had to drive through the field. In a Phoenix race, it's relatively short compared to most tracks. I didn't catch a break at all. I mean, just arrow tight behind people. They're making sure they wrap the line. I go up. Then they all of a sudden they miss the bottom that lap when I'm trying to roll around their outside.
That's interesting because you asked me like back. Maybe it's different, right? Maybe it really is different. I remember there were a lot of conversations about, hey man, like help me out because I got a lot going on here and I'll help you out. Is that part of the sport now or just not?
In my experience, I didn't get taken care of at all in that race whenever we were one of the final four. So
I think the club is going away. I think, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were, I don't know the number, 8, 10, 12 pretty big name drivers, and they all understood they were going to be in good rides. And they did take care of one another, both on and off the racetrack, in business and on the racetrack. And I think now it is more competitive. Back to the equipment that Ross talks about. I think the depth of driver. There are young drivers that continue to push up. Ross.
You got to do it now
for this seat. The last thing he wants to do is allow someone else a free pass when he had to dig all the way to the opportunities he has. So I think that club, the fraternity of big name drivers, has dissolved a little bit.
The guys that are trying to advance, we've talked about pressure, and we've seen some of these guys maybe play it a little safe. Do you think there's an element of that? You have to get a good finish, and some of these guys are like, I'm just going to go out and win.
Well, it comes back to points. That's what happened with us at Kansas. We were in that 6th to 12th place range, and then there was a chance to flip the stage and only have 4-lap older tires, and we took that chance. If we were racing for points, we would have had to have stayed out, even though with everything would have went better on our pit sequence, we could have still gotten stage points, but the safe playoff driver bet was to stay out and then have to be in the back. And the 24 drove all the way to our back bumper where he had track position on us before. So I think a lot of this comes down to, for us at Kansas, was the fact that we could flip the stage because we don't care about the 6 points.
Gambling, what can you afford to lose?
Yeah.
I mean, I think non-playoff cars, why there's still a negative if you don't finish the race, there's still some points implications. I think you driver, human nature, you feel what we've talked about it this whole show. What makes the playoffs is the pressure to perform. Now, that pressure isn't less for the non-playoff drivers. It's just different. Their pressure is like each and every week not connected to one another, where the playoff drivers, it's in these 3 race seasons.
What is this what are the cutoff races like?
I mean, I don't even know what to say about this Roval,
Yeah.
And it's and I want to talk to you about this in depth, but I mean, as we get to a track that the format has changed, everyone agrees it's difficult. It's probably just as chaotic as Talladega in a way, and all this pressure, plus the different people in the playoffs, outside the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, talk about pressure.
What do you, I mean, can you feel it? I mean, I know you're not in it, but can you feel the guys around you feeling it? Because this is an opportunity this weekend at the Roval, right? You've had walk-off wins. You've had guys go out there and just collect every single point that they possibly can. They know that this is their last opportunity to do what they have to do.
Yeah, I can only speak from my experience, really. And in 2022, we were at the Roval. We just really had to finish. We just had to roll around, and I was trying too hard, and I had a slight lapse in concentration in turn 2, and I got loose, and I was already looking at turn 3, thinking about how loose I'd been in there. And I went, oh, I'm crashing. And I hit the right rear, knocked the right rear geometry, all of it off. We were able to replace it when we finished in the 30s. You combine that day with Christopher Bell winning in a walk-off fashion, just like he did at Martinsville 3 weeks later. And I was crossing the line almost in tears thinking I had just taken myself out, and we made it in by a couple of points. So there's some guys that just can't do that. And there's some guys like my teammate who are minus 20, and he's got to go put in the effort, or just the effort will be there. He has to get the results of points. You have to acquire the points.
It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting this weekend at the Roval as well. Some changes to that racetrack and obviously so much on the line. We're going to break that down. We'll tell you, what is the Roval? Maybe we'll find that definition out in a second. It's crazy. That's what it is. Hey, Steve Letarte, where are you going to be this weekend? Well,
The Roval.
there it is, right
All
there.
weekend.
Yeah, you can practice and qualifying on USA, and then, of course, the Roval, the big race. I'm coming out as a race fan. Maybe I'll come and bug you in the booth.
Come out, hang out.
Yeah,
It's a great
come hang
view.
out. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, 2 o'clock on the big network, NBC. Can't wait for that. Okay, let's play a little game of home and not home. So North Carolina is home to race teams. Almost all the race teams are housed here. Almost all the drivers live here. It is a big deal to race at Charlotte Motor Speedway because it is literally in our backyard. So the game is home or not home. I'm going to say a statement. You tell me if it's North Carolina, which is home, not for you, or not home, the American flag somewhere else. This state employs almost 25,000 people through the motorsports industry. I'm just going to throw that one away. Okay, good job. This state was the first in the country to produce moonshine in 1791. It is. It's away. It's Pennsylvania. I would have got that one wrong. I would have lost that bet. Milk is the official state beverage. No, it's actually home. Adopted by the General Assembly in 1987. 87? That seems like it was recent. The first putt-putt golf course was built in this state in 1954. You're right, Steve.
Yes,
you're doing
Steve's
it
right.
again. You're
I'm
doing
going
it
with
again.
Steve.
You're a copycat.
He is. He did the same thing last week, too.
Let him go first this time.
Okay,
All right, I'm going first. I'm going first.
basketball was invented in this state back in, you picked the wrong one to do, back in this state in 1891.
I got no clue, but I think it was Indiana.
It wasn't Indiana, but do you know where it was? Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Oh, Massachusetts by Naismith.
What are you, just picking them up?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Never mind.
Those don't look the same.
You
when
have
read
the
them.
answers and aren't getting them.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. This state leads the nation in production of Christmas trees.
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Do we know where that is?
I'll copy you.
It's not watermelons.
It's Oregon. All right, we had 2 more,
West
but that
Coast.
game went so well and it was so comfortable that we're not going to do it. All right, let's talk about the Roval because we are home this weekend and the Roval. And have you been on the simulator at all in the Roval?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
New or old Roval?
The old Roval.
Oh, well, that
okay.
doesn't count.
I know. I flew in the other day and I'm looking down like it's totally different. So.
Okay. So
yes.
what were your thoughts?
Very tough, and it seems like it's real slick. There's a lot of, okay, here's the biggest thing. They've changed it. We're going to talk about that. Coming onto the longest straightaway is an extremely difficult corner. And on a road course race, you know, the corners that lead onto the longest straightaways are the most important. I was terrible in my little Podium 1 rig on iRacing, and now it's even going to be harder.
So what is the Roval, Steve? Let's explain for folks that it's a fancy term.
It's a
isn't
road
it?
course inside an oval.
Okay.
Therefore, the Roval. It's a great little catch term. I have to give them. It's caught on. When I first heard it, it made no sense, but now I'm on board with it.
I got to be honest. When they started talking about this, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I really thought. And now, if you're a new fan tuning in, you know, you're going to watch baseball later tonight, tune into this race because I think it's going to be one of the most dynamic races of the season.
The changes. Walk us through because you're going to be up in the booth calling the changes. I'm not going to be on the. You're going to walk us through the change. Let Ross know what he expects when he hits that.
All right, Ross. Let's show what's different. So the Roval, it's a road course inside Charlotte Motor Speedway. It looks basically like this. You see the track layout. What's different this year, though, is the infield section. Years past, you would run this red area. Now it's this green area, which has really changed the exit of the infield dramatically. That has some elevation. You can't tell. It kind of goes downhill, and it feeds you into this much talked about turn 7, which is now a 180-degree hairpin, much like Sonoma, much like some other road courses, which leads to a very long straightaway. There it is, Ross. It's going to be exciting. Another small change, front stretch chicane that I don't think should be overlooked. They've kind of moved the curb out. This used to be a little bit of an S. Now it's a real 90-degree corner. I think it's going to make passing difficult, too wide, very difficult. And why too wide matters is because the restart zone leads into that last chicane. So every time we show the field coming to the green, we're going to see the green flag, and they're going to go through the chicane. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What's your thoughts on all the changes?
You say turn 7's like? It ain't like nothing. You come around an off-camber turn 6 after leaving turn 5, going up the track, breaking blind. I cannot see the track in our simulators. We'll see when we actually get there. My Silverado EV didn't have me at the right height to really tell the track when I drove it the other day. I probably shouldn't have said that on air. But, yeah, and then the turn 7 is fully turning right and then basically immediately to turning left. So I think brake lockup could be big there. Just peeling left out of 6, staying wide and getting position on somebody, racing. Super slow corner, but hard to get the traction even though you're going up the track in the banking of NASCAR turn 1.
AJ Allmendinger has 5 total wins at the Roval. Here's what he had to say about the changes.
Yeah, the changes to the racetrack allows itself for more passing opportunities. Also with that, just more desperation. Turn 7 is going to be chaotic. I think, especially at the end of a race, dive bombs, trying to get spots or go for the win. Even the last chicane is going to be the same way. So it'll race a little bit different. I think it's still track position critical, things like that, but it lends itself for fans to really enjoy the end of these races.
I smell a spoiler, Carl. I think we're going to see another spoiler in the playoffs this weekend.
And it might be that guy that was just talking. I look at that turn 7, and I mean, Marcus Smith and those folks are pretty smart. They moved that curbing down to let somebody just drive straight in there. I mean, those seats right there, they're going to be worth whatever people paid for them.
Well, you mentioned the seats. One thing that's overlooked a lot, the Roval inside Charlotte Motor Speedway. Daytona has one as well, and Charlotte. If you're a race fan and you like road course racing, it's one of the few road courses in the entire country you can buy one seat and see the entire track.
Do you like these changes? Like, how do you feel about these?
I do, because I have struggled here so bad.
Okay, so you think that this is going to help?
Anything. I mean, just squirt water on the track. I don't like it. I was teammates with AJ in 2019 and 2020 in the Xfinity Series, and he would stand over my shoulder at the simulator and just coach me at the static sim where it didn't move, and he would more wheel, less wheel, more brake, more gas, all this stuff, up a gear, down a gear, and it taught me a lot, and I've been able to race for the wins with him since then. The Roval, though, I've never even seen AJ on the track. I'm on the backstretch. They're calling the checkered. I'm still in the backstretch chicane. So yes, anything is better. Put a lot of work into this. Whether or not it pays off, I know the effort was there. And chasing guys like AJ is a humbling thing in this sport.
Well, good luck trying to smash that watermelon this weekend. Got that on the hauler, and yeah, we'll always on the hauler, ready to go. We get the guy who carries it out. Before we get going, we have some NASCAR babies that were just born. Did you guys see this? The Briscoes, they had their twins.
Oh, congratulations.
There they are. Look at how cute they are. This is Cooper Banks and Collins Ivy. I love it. Little girl and little boy. He'll be racing with a little more motivation this weekend, trying to get a victory out there because those little babies starting all over again. Babies everywhere. No, I've got no help right now at all. We'll be right back. Thank you, Ross. This is not where you want to be going into the Roval, is it? Is it? We don't want to be here, do we, Mamba?
No, we do not want to be
in the bottom 6.
32 points down. That's not where the 14 train is needed.
No, well, he's got the you're on the Briscoe train.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
We're not in a good spot right now.
Okay, so let's do some hot laps, all right? So someone below the cut will win to advance. What do you think, Carl?
I'm going to say if it were going to happen, it's going to happen here. Okay. I think that, we've got, what is it? Like the last run is something like 6-lap average or 7-lap average. We've got a changed racetrack. We've got all these crazy corners we talked about. I'd say if it's going to happen, it's here.
No chance.
No, you're on the Briscoe train, so you're probably saying yes, right?
Yeah, Briscoe's gonna do it. America's been going at me, so I gotta stay strong.
All 4 Hendrick Motorsports will advance.
Yes.
All 4.
Yes.
What do we think?
Yeah, no, they will.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we
going? No clue. No clue. I can tell you this: Alex Bowman's going to do great. I'm telling you.
Carl, that's not how this works. You gotta take a stand.
Okay. No.
Okay, there you go. No. Which one? No, I'm just kidding. Only one Penske will advance. Mamba, what do you think? Oof.
Yeah, only one of them are going to go.
Only one.
Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
Only one.
I have to agree. Yes.
You have to agree. All right, well, there you go. Those are our hot laps, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take you for a hot lap around the Roval. So let's tell the business card story.
Okay.
We have you here, so let's go. It's infamous.
Yeah, so when I wanted to drive race cars, I figured everybody had to know, right? So I'd pass out these cards. Here, I'll give you guys one so you can see them. And it was basically like, look, I want to drive a race car. Now, I saw a lot of these laying in the dirt at the local dirt track after the races,
Really?
so people would just throw them away. And I thought it would be special, because you guys have careers, to make sure that you each had each other's cards, right?
Cool.
I thought it was good. And that way, if you needed a motivational...
Is this a real business card? Did you really...
It isn't, but if I want one, I'm going to hire my man. Look at this.
My God, look at that.
Call that blue steel right there. Look at that look.
That's a good-looking picture,
This is going to be scary. I have a feeling it's going to be scary, Mama.
I really like that one, because you have led and inspired and managed my TV career for the last 2 weeks. Okay. Now, this is one that you guys might really need at some point.
Oh, my God. He's like,
because Because let's be honest, each of us has
Oh my God, this is
two
like a
hands.
glamour
Okay, we have
shot.
2 hands, and you got to know what to do with them when you meet somebody.
Look at this is a glamour shot.
look at
Oh
the
God, here we go. Oh my
I
God.
know, it only gets better, folks.
There's going to be one left, though. I'm ready.
Because if you happen to need.
I saw the picture.
You saw it? Okay, here you go.
Yeah, you still gotta take it.
Yeah, you got to take these cards. That's important. You can't just leave them in the knee.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Damn, you did her dirty. This is dirty work.
Whatever you all want to talk about, if it happens to be your hair,
oh my God.
We can talk about that.
Okay, in all fairness, this was probably like 1983, and that was a fly haircut back in 1983. The Aquanet and the.
Did your hairdresser tell you that?
Oh my gosh! Look at it, was like a wall.
A+.
Hey, tweet in if you want her to try something like that next
what does
week.
it say?
That's what she needs to be doing.
So yours says, Carl Edwards says, if you're looking for a driver, you're looking for.
You're looking for me.
Like a dating ad too.
Right. Dude,
lead, motivate,
hey,
inspire.
It's coming back, guys. It's coming back, right? The digital world, people want real things. You got to hand out these business cards, folks. They work.
It is coming back because Raja Caruth, he actually hands out business cards because of you. So here's Raja's business card.
It's so cool.
You started a trend.
It's the way it is. It's hard to hand somebody a card like this, folks. And I'm telling you, if you want something in the world, you got to go out and get it, and they're going to laugh at you. And maybe not as bad as we're going to laugh at Shannon's hair, but yes, it is tough.
I mean, I have a lot of questions.
This was, what are the questions?
So what hair band did you listen to have hair like this?
This is crazy. I got wings. I got everything going on in this picture, don't I? How did I do this? I don't even think I could duplicate this if I tried to.
And you're proud of it.
Look at you. Look at that smile. I'm like, I am feeling it, aren't I?
I think my favorite thing about Shannon's card is it says "Live, Laugh, Love" on the bottom, like it came from the Hobby Lobby.
Does it really? I thought it says we'll talk about anything.
Yeah, but look under that, under your picture.
Oh yeah, there it goes. All right, well, if you had one quote on your business card now, what would it be? Tea time. What's my next tea time?
Don't swear on television.
What about yours,
Words
Carl?
to live by.
Mine would be, why not?
Why not?
I love it.
What about yours?
I like why not.
I mean, mine would be GDTBA, great day to be alive. But I cannot go through this without asking, how do you fog up your glasses? How hard have you been working out here, my guy?
That's what it would say.
Did you
my
see,
business card.
Did you
Work
see,
so hard, we'll fog up.
Fogging glasses all day, every day.
Mamas will say, I wear a watch that doesn't work just because it looks good.
Oh.
It's a true story.
And he looks better with them.
I don't know what mine would say, but it would definitely say, get a new hairstyle. We are so excited. Another show in the books. Carl, you've been awesome.
This was
Great
fun.
to have you.
Enjoyed it, man.
Thank you all.
Have a great race.